Is this a record, Shad? 8 guests in one Friday session? What do you think?
I don't know. CPAC happened.
No, that CPAC is different. That's 48 guests in 1 hour. That's different.
Since I've been here, it's at least in the top 3.
It's the top 3. Good. And we love it all, especially when it's our regulars, team members, like the one and only host of Trish Intel, Trish Regan. Welcome back to America First.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you. As always, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So we have to talk about the latest figures coming out, unemployment, job creation, restaurants are opening up, the news from Texas and Mississippi. But first things first, if you were running a business and you were given a budget for a certain period of time of, $2 trillion, and they decided to give you another $2 trillion before you'd spent the last one, and you had $1 trillion left over, what would happen to your CFO or your CEO, Trish?
Well, if they were giving me money, right, I'd say, way to go to the CFO, because somebody just keeps giving me money. Hey, but I get what you're going after here, and that's the irresponsibility of our government. Because, I keep saying this, no one can do math. No one that is in Washington, D.C. knows how to add 2 plus 2. They just think that money is growing on trees, right? They can keep printing it and printing and printing it. They don't understand the ramifications. They don't understand what this is going to actually mean in the way of inflation, something I'm growing increasingly worried about. And anybody who's looking for a mortgage is probably growing worried about too, because mortgage rates are now above 3% for the first time since last summer. Why? Because everyone knows this stimulus is huge and it's so big, which, seems great, right? Free money, but it's not free. That's the problem. And it's going to lead to inflationary pressures, which is going to cost us and our economy in the long run. So, they're printing money like it's going out of style, but the problem is you can't do that. It ultimately does not work.
Where do you feel it first? If the printing of money doesn't stop, if the 1.9 trillion is followed by another massive package, where is the inflation going to be felt the first by Americans, Trish?
Well, you're going to see it in credit card rates. You're going to see it in mortgage rates. It could affect the value of your home, because don't forget, the minute mortgage rates go up, and they will go up. We're already seeing that. You look at the 10-year yield in treasuries right now. You're going to see it in the value of your home, for example, because people will not be able to afford as much of a home. But the real danger here is when I look at this market that's trading at 30 times earnings, that's double the historical average. I mean, normally we trade at 14 to 15 times PE, price to earnings multiple.
Explain that for the neophytes.
Sure. So a stock price, right? When you value a company, you're looking at what it's going to be worth compared to future earnings. And so, those earnings better be there if you keep betting that this company is worth more and more and more and more and more. All this money is chasing these assets in a way that's really gotten kind of out of sync with anything that we've seen historically. And so over and over again throughout history, the Federal Reserve has always played a role, Seb, in these bubbles, whether it was the tech bubble in 2000, whether it was the subprime mortgage bubble, which created a massive problem for Wall Street in 2008, or whether it's perhaps now where you see if they pull back, right, if the Federal Reserve says, well, we're going to raise rates, you're going to have a complete meltdown on Wall Street. We saw it in yesterday's trading. Powell came out and said, well, we're here, we're going to be accommodative, but at some point things will change because at some point things are going to get better. And the market freaked out, ending the day down almost 350 points on the Dow, down more than 2% on the NASDAQ. So all I'm saying is, these things don't happen in a vacuum. It sounds good, and politicians love it because they don't care. They don't care what our country looks like 10 years from now, 20 years from now. They only care about satisfying specific contingents, right, specific groups that will hopefully get them elected again. And so if they can keep them happy by spending this money that feels very ethereal to them, then gosh darn it, that's exactly what they're going to do. There is no responsibility out there.
No, I'm the layperson, you're the expert. I want a potential response to something that I've been talking about for weeks now, and now it's coming to fruition. The first crisis this administration is going to have to deal with is already happening on the southern border. The White House has said they're sending their experts to the border. Too late. It's too late. Could the increase of illegal migration, also the news reports of these individuals testing positive for the coronavirus and then being allowed freely into our communities, could this have an effect on the economy, Trish?
Absolutely. I mean, think about the wage pressure that people who are here illegally are putting on unskilled American workers, right? If you're an unskilled American worker and say, you got a shot at getting a job as a dishwasher, but you're going to get paid, $8 an hour or $9 an hour, and along comes somebody who's here illegally and is not going to be paying any taxes on any of this. It's all under the table, and they'll do it for $4 or $5 an hour. Well, think of how that affects the unskilled American laborer. There's for sure an issue with wage pressure. There's also the issue of the benefits that these communities have to pay out, right, to take care of so many of these groups that are coming here and don't have anything. And so you think about the education system that gets drained because you're educating a lot of these kids, the healthcare system that gets drained. I mean, there's some economic realities that go with the immigration problem. Nobody wants to talk about it, but and by the way, Seb, you know me. I mean, for goodness sakes, you're an immigrant. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for immigration policies that welcomed my family. The reality is, we are a very, I think, open and loving country in that way, but we have to do it with some kind of system and some kind of purpose. You don't just have people seep into the country over the border illegally and then drain the system. We've got to have a better, less red tape and more efficiency when it comes to this issue. Moreover, you don't just leave the gates wide open and say, come on in, especially at a time when you're trying to to make sure that COVID is declining.
In the last 10 seconds we have with Trish Regan, what would you like to hear? What is the one thing the White House should say or the Fed should say in the coming days or weeks?
Can Joe Biden just do a press conference?
That is the question. No, they've said.
Can you just say hi?
Here's the latest, Trish. Just moments ago, the White House said the President of the United States may give his first press conference by the end of March. Isn't it the beginning of March? What is going on? If you want the facts, follow this lady, Trish_Regan, TrishIntel.com, and the Trish Intel podcast. I've just retweeted her latest piece. Here's the money you will get from the Senate's $1.9 trillion. Read it now. God bless, Trish. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First.